Eats monsters for breakfast.
In today's video, we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 5 and Project Scarlett, because it seems that Microsoft has apparently, if this is to be believed, leaked some information, more specifically the official description of Project Scarlett. Apparently, and it's hard not to laugh when I say this, in an attempt to suppress or bring down the hype for the PlayStation 5. Because as we know, Sony just released a bunch of new official information about the PS5, and people are very, very excited for it, very hyped for it, rightfully so. There are some very important reasons that we're going to go over in this video why people are hyped for the PS5, and more importantly, why, frankly, nothing can really stop that hype. And I don't mean to say that sounding like some kind of fanboy, but it's factually true here, and we need to go over that. We need to go over the reasons why, because I've seen a lot of people, or at least some people, mainly Xbox fans, really going on about this, because apparently this description does reveal one thing specifically that some people still don't seem to understand, that when I say the power factor this time around really isn't going to matter, like, it's just not. I know there's some people who just don't want to accept that, but we're going to go over that. Let's read this description first, okay? It says, Project Scarlett arriving holiday 2020. Project Scarlett will set a new bar for console power, speed, and performance, arriving holiday 2020 alongside Halo Infinite with a custom-designed AMD processor, high-bandwidth GDDR6 memory, and a next-generation solid-state drive. Project Scarlett will give developers the power they need to bring their creative visions to life. Thousands of games across 4 console generations will look and play best on Project Scarlett. Now, obviously, if you pay attention to what this description is saying, if this is the real deal, it says here, Project Scarlett will set a new bar for console power, speed, and performance. Clearly Microsoft's way of letting us know that apparently Project Scarlett is going to be the more powerful of the 2 next-generation consoles. Now, here's the thing. I need people to understand that when I say this, I'm not just applying it to Project Scarlett. I want you to understand that if by the time these consoles release, when we find out the PlayStation 5 happens to be more powerful, what I'm about to say also applies to the PS5. Okay? Like, I'm not just picking and choosing here. I will say this exact same thing if the PS5 does end up being more powerful than Project Scarlett. It will not matter. The difference between these 2 consoles is going to be negligible, meaning you're not going to see a difference. You are just not. People need to understand that this is not me basically saying it only mattered when the PlayStation 4 was more powerful than the Xbox One, but it won't matter if Project Scarlett is more powerful than the PS5. It's not that. You need to understand that you're talking about, when it comes to the base model Xbox One and PS4, that was 720p gaming versus 1080p gaming, and anybody will tell you, any gamer will tell you, there is a big difference between the 2. You can see a big difference. It is a big visual leap going from 720p to 1080p. That is just a fact. Anybody with decent vision can see that when they're playing a game, right? Or even watching something. Now, obviously, that gap started to close as we got further into the generation, and Microsoft got a lot of flack for that, rightfully so, at the beginning of this generation, because it was very clear that rather than putting more emphasis on ensuring that they could get their console up to 1080p to match the PlayStation 4, they were focused on other things, which we all know. But that gap has slowly, over the course of this generation, closed, where most games now on Xbox One run at 1080p, and even if they don't run at 1080p, they run at like 900p, and you can barely see the difference. So you can already see why it's really not going to matter this time around. Even with the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro, there are a few games here and there where you can see more of a significant difference, but overall, most games look the same if they're PS4 Pro and Xbox One X enhanced. There's just a few differences here and there. The Xbox One X being more powerful, the truth of the matter is, like, yeah, sometimes it does get, or most times it does get higher resolutions. It does get maybe a frame rate boost here and there, but at the end of the day, like, it's really not that big of a difference. But the thing about these next-gen consoles is when I tell you that it truly is going to be negligible, it's true. It's called the law of diminishing returns here. These consoles are going to be so similar in terms of GPU, CPU, RAM, everything they're going to offer, everything they're going to do, games are going to run pretty much identically. And if one console does have the edge over the other, it's literally going to be between a 1 and 5% difference. Mark my words. You're barely going to see anything. When Digital Foundry does these breakdowns, you're probably going to see that for some games, maybe it dips like 5 frames occasionally here and there, and that's like it. Maybe one game is like 98% or like 95% of native 4K, to whereas on the other console it is native 4K. Like, it's going to be stuff like that. I would be surprised if it wasn't. I would be surprised, because you have to understand both of these consoles are going to be priced the same. I highly doubt one of these console manufacturers is going to risk putting out the more expensive console. I just don't see that happening. Now, obviously, this conversation gets completely derailed if either of these companies decide to release a base model and a pro model of a console, but I don't think that's likely, if I'm being honest. I don't think that's going to happen. And so I'm only focusing on this because, listen, if you're somebody who is excited for Project Scarlett, and if it does end up being the more powerful console, and to you that's a big deal and that's something you want to celebrate and you want to brag about as an Xbox fan, go ahead. But you just need to understand that when I say it's not going to put a single dent in the hype machine that is the PS5, I'm not saying that in a biased way. You have to understand there is a very good reason why people are as excited for the PlayStation 5 as they are, and why pretty much nothing Xbox can do can take away from that hype. And I'm not saying that, and like, to me that doesn't feel like opinion. I feel like, honestly, that's just the way it is. It really is. The number one reason for that is because there are going to be sequels to games come next generation with the PS5, potentially starting at launch. We don't know for sure yet, but surely within the first 3 years of its life, that people are going to buy this console for. Now, something else I've seen people pointing out about this is Halo Infinite. You know, Microsoft is sure to mention Halo Infinite is launching alongside Project Scarlett holiday 2020, and that's like a dig at PlayStation, because PlayStation hasn't officially confirmed any games yet that are going to launch alongside the PS5. And this to me is just like, what? Like, what do you, like, just use your brain for a couple seconds here. Do you really think, does anybody, honestly, I need to know, does anybody really think Sony is going to launch the PlayStation 5 and not have at least one or even two launch titles? I mean, who thinks that? Who thinks that, right? Like, that's not going to happen. Just because they haven't confirmed which games yet, or which game, doesn't mean there aren't going to be any. And that's just, it's ridiculous to me that people are trying to run with this as like, oh, look, see, PlayStation 5's not going to have any games at launch. Like, I hope for your sake, these fanboys who like to fuel the console war, right? I hope for your sake that Sony releases some more low-key games, because I'll tell you right now, if we find out God of War 5 is a launch title, if we find out Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is a launch title, Spider-Man 2, any of these games, if they're launch titles, I'm sorry, but Halo Infinite's going to be in trouble. It really is. And, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to take a shot at Halo Infinite, because I have nothing wrong. Like, I have no problem with that game, right? Like, Halo fans, if you're excited for it, awesome. I know there's a lot of people who are hoping that this is going to be the big comeback for Halo. I hope it is too. I hope Project Scarlett does well. But these are just things that people need to understand, that, like, okay, the other thing here is talking about the 4 console generations. I think it's actually great that anybody who does pick up Project Scarlett, you're going to be able to play original Xbox games, Xbox 360 games, and Xbox One games. That's fantastic. I have nothing negative to say about that at all, because there is nothing negative to say. All I will say, however, is that we know the PlayStation 5 is going to be backwards compatible with PS4 games. And there was a report that came out where basically some people are trying to run with it, making it sound like not all PS4 games are going to be backwards compatible on PS5, because Sony pretty much came out and said that, listen, we're still putting a lot of effort and resources into ensuring that we can get every game working through backwards compatibility on the PS5, that being every PS4 game. Now, if people want to read into that and believe that that's pretty much Sony saying that not every game is going to be playable, Fine, I can understand that, but in my opinion, what I take from that is they're just simply telling the truth. They're just letting us know that they're still working towards it. They're ensuring it's going to be ready and working and functioning 100% day one. It's not just something that they're just going to flip a switch and it's going to work. It's not that simple. It never is. They're just being honest here. So, I mean, people can run with that as they will. Now, will it be disappointing if the PlayStation 5 doesn't play PS3, PS2, or PS1 games? Yeah, I think it would be disappointing for sure, especially if that's something that the competition offers. And I will admit that that would be something that Project Scarlett and Xbox has over Sony. But what people need to understand is most people, and believe me when I tell you this, I can't emphasize it enough. I'm almost confident in saying almost all people. If you were to take a poll, 99% of people would tell you they're buying a new console for new games. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. They're buying a new console for new games, even if those games are remasters, which it's not going to be that way this time around. We're not going to see a remaster of The Last of Us 2 or anything like that. It's not going to work that way. But that's just the fact of the matter. And that kind of feeds into the whole idea, this is why you can't stop the PlayStation 5 hype. You just can't. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much you want to, there is a reason people are backing PlayStation. And it's because they're backing the games that PlayStation has delivered this generation that they know they're going to get more of. Next generation, even bigger, even better sequels. And they also know that they're going to get new games as well, new IP. Sony has really shown how proactive they've been in developing new IP and giving developers the freedom to take risks with new IP and giving them the time and the funding. And these are reasons. I know people don't want to hear this. I know certain Xbox fans can't accept this, but these are the reasons, and they are potent reasons, important reasons, why people are very much hyped for the PS5, and why, frankly, there's nothing Xbox could really say or do at this point that could take away from that hype. Can Xbox attempt to match that hype? Yes, and I hope they do. I want the competition. I really do. I want to see Microsoft push Sony to be the best that they can absolutely be, and I want to see Sony continuing to try to push Microsoft to be the best that they can absolutely be. And I just want to say one last thing here for the people that are saying that this is basically Microsoft coming out here taking a big shot, right, a big dig at Sony. I need to ask is, if that's the case, then why was this leaked, right? If Microsoft really wants to actually, grow a pair and actually do something, why don't you actually just come out here, be competitive, and you say, you know what, Sony wants to release all this info and get the hype train going for the PS5, well, we're going to release the official description of Project Scarlett. Boom, there you go. It's going to be the most powerful. It's going to be for developers first. It's going to be for games. You're going to have 4 generations of console games you can play on it. You're going to have Halo Infinite. Why don't you just do that officially? Put it out there. Make it known. Make a big deal of it. Don't, this is where I just feel like this is sad. The fans are the ones out here trying to compete with PlayStation 5, not Microsoft. When was Microsoft planning on releasing this description? If this was a controlled leak, well, this is pretty sad. Why do you have to be so low-key about it? Just come out here, beat your chest a little bit, and let people know that you have a product that is worth buying. Let them know, this is why you're going to want to buy our product instead of the competition's. But they're not going to do that. This is what fans have been, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to competition. Okay? And, if you're somebody who is excited for Project Scarlett and you're planning on picking up day one, that's awesome. I have no problem with that. All I will say is that if you choose to pick up Project Scarlett and not a PS5, you could potentially be missing out on some really, really good games. I made that mistake this generation, not going to make that mistake twice. I promise you that. And I feel like I'm at least one person where I can tell you, it doesn't matter what Microsoft does. I mean, if they show me games that get me excited, awesome. I'll be there, man. But until that day comes, I know what I'm going to be getting with the PS5. And you know what? The truth is, I'm not going to be picking up a PS5 hoping I can't wait to play PS3, PS2, and PS1 games. Will it be great if I can? Of course. Is that going to stop me from experiencing some of the best games that I'm probably ever going to play next generation? Absolutely not. If the PlayStation 5 ends up being 10% less powerful than Project Scarlett, is that going to be a difference maker to me? Is that going to be a deal breaker? No, especially when looking at a lot of the games that Sony has released on the PS4 Pro. They look better than anything I played on the Xbox One X, and I say that as an owner of both consoles. Okay, so no, I'm really not worried about any of this. Halo Infinite, I hope it does well. I hope Halo fans can feel like it's the big comeback they've been waiting for. I hope it does well for Microsoft. But I'm sorry, there's just not much here that I honestly feels like this doesn't change anything. I will say this, if this was a leak that came out that Microsoft did not intend for it to come out, but somebody internally basically sent it to, I believe it was Clobriel on Twitter to leak this out, I'll tell you there's a reason why Microsoft didn't come out here and put it out here officially, because there's no reason to. It doesn't do anything, it doesn't change anything. But anyway, that does it for the video. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on this. I will be interested to see what you guys have to say. Leave the video a like if you did enjoy it, or if you agree with what I have to say. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.